All right, so today we are going to walk through how to pack for your cosmetology TDLR practical exam. So starting out, you're gonna have some kind of bag, and that is gonna be your kit. So today we have a duffel bag, and on the top it is labeled pre-sanitized. We do recommend that you go ahead and label at least on the side somewhere pretty sanitized as well, because wherever your proctor in the room, wherever your proctor is in the room, they need to be able to see that your bag is pre-sanitized, okay? So when your exam starts out, you do have your kit, and then you have your Lisa and your stand for Lisa outside of your kit. Okay, so that will just be sitting on the side of your testing table, and you won't take care of that part until you are to the portion in your test where you need to get your Lisa and your stand ready. Okay, so when they start the exam, you're going to have to do your pre-examination and setup. So when you go into your bag, your first bag you're grabbing should be pre-examination and setup. You should be closing your bag in between each section, because if you do not close it, and even if you do not close it all the way, the proctor can count off for not keeping your kit sanitary. Okay, so taking a look at this bag. In this bag, I would start off by setting up with my trash bag and my roll of tape. Okay, the reason for that is if I do not start off with my trash bag and roll the tape, whenever I go to sanitize my station or disinfect my station, I will not have a place to put my paper towels. So we start off by placing the trash bag on the station with a piece of tape or multiple pieces of tape. At this point, we can grab our disinfectant and we can EPA our station. And I have some paper towel sheets in this bag. If you want a roll of paper towels in this bag, that is perfectly fine, but I'll show you how I packed for this particular bag, okay? At this point, once you're done EPAing your station, your EPA would stay on your station and your paper towels would go into the trash because they are soiled. When you're finished with that, you would get rid of your pre-examination setup bag, and then you would sanitize your hands. At this point on, you have to sanitize your hands in between each kit bag, going into your kit, before starting your section on your mannequin, and also going in and outside of your trash bag, okay? So in this bag, you should have your hand sanitizer, your EPA, a couple paper towels or a roll of paper towels, your tape, and your trash bag. Before you finish this section, if you are going to have a general bag, this is when you would go back into your kit after you sanitize your hands and grab your general bag. Again, you would be closing your kit in between this. At this point, I have my general bag. Today, I just have it written on there, but we usually give you labels just so it stands out even better. I'm just gonna show you what's in the general bag. So I have a bunch of sheets of paper towels. So if you wanted to just do sheets where you only grab a sheet whenever you need one, you can do that, but you would have to know that every time you go into this bag, you have to sanitize your hands, grab what you want. The moment it comes out of this bag, it cannot go back in the bag, and then you would have to close the bag up. Okay, so I have some paper towels. I have a couple sets of extra towels just in case I dropped a draping during my test. I have an extra setup for my facial and waxing service with some 4x4, some cotton rounds, a band to like a headband, and then a processing cap for the hair. So if I messed up or dropped something, I would have an extra set of that. I have some extra neck strips for the same reason if I was to drop or contaminate my current neck strips. I have a couple extra pairs of gloves. I have some extra clips. The clips is so I can make sure that I'm getting my hair sectioned properly, and in case I drop a clip, I have a couple combs and an extra brush, okay? The combs would be if I dropped one of my combs during any point of the exam, or lo and behold, didn't have a comb in one of the bags, I needed a comb, I have some extra combs. A brush in case I need an extra brush. And then I have an extra bag with a few little clips in it, some extra perm rods and extra perm papers in case I needed some there. This bag can have extra of whatever you would like. It's just here, so if you needed to grab something because you dropped something, you forgot something in packing, you have it available. The biggest thing is that you cannot put anything back in this bag. And if you pull out one of these bags, you would have to use this whole bag. You cannot take out one part and then put it back in the bag. So do with that as you will. You can continue to put as many of these into little bags as you can, but I don't, just because that would prevent me from having the rest of the items that were in the bag if I only needed one or two of the items that were in it. Okay? So again, if you didn't have a roll of paper towel, you could have sheets of paper towel like such in here, but you would have to sanitize every time going into this bag to grab that piece of paper towel. So I'd be grabbing like such, okay? Or you can set it up a little bit better where it comes out easier. It's up to you. It's just an idea. At this point, you gotta remember, anytime you go in and out of this bag, you do have to zip it up. At that point, I would leave my general bag on my station, so I would have that for the remainder of my exam. I would raise my hand and I would let them know that I have sanitized my station, I have set up with what I need to set up for, and I am ready to be done being scored, and I'm ready for us to move on to the next section. Once they move on to the next section, they'll let you know that you're going to be doing X, Y, Z. You're gonna go in ready to go on to the next section. Once they tell me what my next section is and that I may begin, I'm gonna go back into my kit after sanitizing my hands again, because it doesn't matter that you sanitized your hands at the end of the last section, you have to sanitize your hands again before going into your main kit. You have to close your kit and grab the next bag. So this is why when you pack, we do recommend that you have all your bags in order, so you don't really have to search for a bag. You can just grab the next one. So the next section would be the monomer and polymer service. On this section, you do have a separate station at TDLR to do this section. So you have the option to use a separate trash bag at your separate station. So if you were to do that, you could have an extra little trash bag that you would be discarding all your implements in before you are finished with this section. Then you would take this trash bag and put it into your big trash bag and raise your hand to signify that you are done. If not, you can just use the big trash bag that is over at your other station. Just do with that what you will. So at this point, I have all my implements in this small bag to make it really easy on me to get everything out. If you are going to pour things out on the table, you just want to be mindful that you're not letting it spread everywhere, okay? So in here, I do have 2 powder choices. You do not need to take 2 powders, okay? So ideally, this one is labeled for the powder, so I would just leave this one in the kit, and I wouldn't even have this one at all. You need a clean nail file. This one has been used for demonstration, so it is not the cleanest right now, but you need a clean nail file. You need your monomer, and we do this glove so it doesn't leak. And you need to make sure that your monomer still has its label on it saying that it is odorless, and they will check this before you start your exam. You need an application brush, you need a cuticle pusher, and you need an orange wood stick, okay? For us, we just use the orange wood stick as our cuticle pusher, and we place a little piece of cotton onto this orange wood stick to signify that we are using it as a cuticle pusher. You need 2 clean dappen dishes, one for monomer, one for powder, because you cannot get your powder out of this container during your test. That would be cross-contamination. You need a finger with a with a plastic nail already attached to it to give you the free edge needed for a natural nail. When you start your exam, that tip that's already on your finger is your natural nail, and you will apply a tip on top of that and apply your acrylic. You need a primer, you need nail glue, you need your nail trimmer, you need a buffer, and you need some plastic tips, okay? We recommend that you go ahead and take all the extra tips out of your bag and only take 1 or 2 of the size that you need to put on this particular finger, or whatever finger that you are using when you go to TDLR. The reason for that is nobody wants to spend time testing out these different finger sizes when you know you could have already had that selected, okay? So as you do your section, you will have a piece of paper towel underneath everything, so you are not on top of the station. So you would have to go back into your general bag, grab a paper towel to sanitize your station, and then grab a paper towel to set all these implements on top of, or go ahead and have a paper towel in this bag. That is up to you on how you would like to set it up. Okay. Now remember, I could not do what I'm doing right now in an exam. All these things that I just put in here, as I was done using them, I would have put them into this trash bag. If I chose to, close up this trash bag, take this trash bag and put it into my big bag, my big trash bag. This does make it a little bit easier for when you are done with your exam and going back and trying to find all your implements. It's all in one bag. So that is the way that you can do that, but this is the only section that you can do that in. Every other section, it has to go into your big bag. So at this point, once I'm done, I would raise my hand to let the proctor know that I'm ready for them to check my nail. When they come over and check my nail, they will tell me thank you, and at that point, I can finish sanitizing anything that I need to sanitize, throwing away my nail. Unless I was using that same nail for my blood exposure, I would just leave it out. When I am done being scored on my cleanup, I would then raise my hand again to let them know that I'm ready to go back to my stand-up station and that I have cleaned my nail station, which includes the desk and the chair that you will be sitting in. So after that, when they tell me to start my next section, I will sanitize my hands and I will go back into my kit. When I go back into my kit, I am looking for my next bag, which is going to be blood exposure, okay? So here, this just happened where one of my bags was sitting on top of the other one because my other bags have fallen over my duffel bag, okay? So in a test, if I pull this bag out of my kit, I cannot put this bag back inside of my kit like this. This would be cross-contamination and failure to keep your kit sanitary. So just really be mindful of that. But for today's purposes, and being that we're just making a video of how you should pack for your bags and why you should pack this way, we're just gonna put it back in there. Okay. So at this point, I just remembered. I already showed the facial bag. All right, so going from monomer to polymer service into blood exposure. For me, I had 2 fingers, so I do not have the finger out from my last section. But if you did not have 2 fingers, you could use the same finger, or we've been told that it is okay to do it on yourself. But be mindful of where you choose to do it on yourself, because you do have to wear gloves during this section, okay? All right, so looking at this, again, my goal is to try to get it out all together so I don't have to go back into this bag for cross-contamination reasons. Looking at it, I have 2 trash bags. This would be called double bagging for the trash, and that's just to make sure that all the blood-borne pathogens and whatnot do not cross-contaminate any other implements in the trash can. I have my finger. I have 2 pairs of gloves, just in case I had to change my gloves. I have antiseptic. You can put these into a bottle and put it onto a cotton round, or you can have it in a little jar like this and have a little cotton round already soaked in it. Or you can have like an alcohol pad for your antiseptic disinfectant. I have a couple bandages here. You really only need one or like two, just to make sure if you dropped one, you have an extra, but I just have extra for the bag. And then I have a couple extra cotton rounds here if I needed that, because you do need something to hold pressure onto whenever you're cleaning up, okay? It is very important that you do not pre-double bag all your trash bags. You have to put each one of these implements and soiled items into one trash bag, and then you have to put it into the other trash bag, okay? So whenever you are doing your exam, all of this would be out, right? And so as you use it on your finger, you would get rid of it. I used my antiseptic, I got rid of it. I used my disinfectant, I got rid of it. I used my cotton rounds, I got rid of it. I used my Band-Aids, I got rid of it, and then I put my gloves in here. I close it up, I put it into my second bag, okay? So you do not want to have anything go back into your big bag or pre-sanitized implement bags, okay? So later on, I will be making a video of how this actually looks in real time, but just for today's purposes, this is for your packing and why we are packing in this way. So at this point, my double trash bags would be doubled up. I would put this into my big trash bag. Okay. Okay. When I'm done with that, I would signify that I'm done by raising my hands after I have sanitized my station and sanitized my hands. And I would wait for them to tell me to begin and go into my kit after sanitizing my hands before going into it. The next section is the facial service, okay? So at this point, this is when I would set up my mannequin before grabbing my bag out of the kit. The reason for that is if you go ahead and have all these implements on your table, or you forget, like, oh goodness, I need to go set up my mannequin, and you just leave this bag on your table, they don't like to see that. So I would set up my stand and my mannequin head onto that stand. The bag that the stand is in has to go into your big trash bag. It cannot be left on the floor or out on the table anywhere. So it does have to go into that trash bag. At that point, once you have your stand and your mannequin set up, you're gonna go into your kit and you're gonna grab the facial bag. In this bag, I have the disposable draping. I have my 2 towels. I have a bag with all my liquids, my simulated products. And then I have a bag with my 4x4s, my cotton rounds, and my head processing cap, and my other headband. I do have an extra headband in this bag, just in case I soiled my headband with any of the moisturizer, cleansing products, anything like that. It does have to be replaced before we move into the next section, or else you can get points taken off for not replacing contaminated items. Okay, so all of this would be used during the exam. Anytime I go into one of these small pre-sanitized implement bags, I would need to sanitize my hands before doing that. Okay. At our school, we do tell our students, sanitize your hands, disinfect your station, sanitize your hands again, go into the kit, grab your bag, sanitize your hands one more time because you touched the outside of the bag, which is not sanitary. Go into your kit bag, your section bag, grab everything all at once if you can, or go in and out only by closing and sanitizing before you go back into it to finish your setup. Then we recommend that you sanitize your hands one more time before starting the actual surface. So like in this case, it would be the facial service that we would sanitize our hands one more time before going into doing the facial. So once I'm done disinfecting my table, sanitizing my hands, I'm gonna raise my hand to let the proctor know that I am done with that section. They will let me know when I can begin again. I will sanitize my hands and go into my kit for my next bag. At this point, I'm gonna be doing my waxing service. So I would be sanitizing my hands before even going into this bag for best practices. All my stuff for my waxing section is in the small bag. So I would just discard of this bag, sanitize my hands one more time before going into my pre-sanitized implement bags. In this bag, I would try to get everything out, and I would discard of that small bag. When you have labels on stuff, you would have it facing your proctor as much as you can. We do recommend that you have a piece of paper towel on the table to set your implements on. So if you want to put a piece of paper towel in this bag, you can, or you can grab a piece of paper towel out of your general bag. Okay, so I have 2 pairs of gloves in case they get soiled and I need to replace them, or in case they rip. I have 2 sticks. I have my simulated wax product, and then I have a antiseptic lotion. This antiseptic lotion is going to be a cotton round with some product on it, or it can be in a bottle. Then you have separate cotton rounds on the side that you pour that lotion onto that cotton round and then place it onto the client. If not, this is okay too. And then this one needs a label, but this would be our post product. Okay, so same thing, cotton round with product on it. Then I have 2 fabric strips. When you put these strips on, you do have to be mindful that they are grading you for proper application of the wax, proper application of the strip, and then proper removal of the strip. So make sure you're practicing that. So all this would go in here. You do need to make sure you have gloves on during this section because blood can be present during waxing services. All this would go into the big trash bag. I would sanitize my hand, sanitize my station, raise my hand to signify that I am done being scored, and wait for them to tell me to move on to the next section. When they tell me it's okay to go into the next section, I will open up my kit and grab the next bag. The next bag is going to be hair cutting. So at this point, this is when you should be changing your draping style. You should have a hair cutting cape or a disposable cape and some neck strips. Okay, so a cape. I have my neck strips and my clips in here. If you notice, this bag is not labeled pre-sanitized implements. This would be a no-no for TDLR. This has to be labeled pre-sanitized implements if it is going to be inside of a bag for your test, because they will assume that these are dirty implements if it is not labeled that they are pre-sanitized. So just make sure you don't have any bags that look like such. So neck strip and some clips for the hair cutting service. I have a water bottle for the hair cutting service, and then I have a 9-row and then a comb. Okay, so having your normal spray bottle would be very helpful because you're gonna have to wet the entire head for even saturation. So this would take a while if you were to use this bottle, but getting one of the pump bottles or just the spray bottles will help. But this kind, it doesn't release enough water at once to get it saturated in the time that we want it saturated. Okay, so you would saturate the hair, you would do a scalp analysis using your 9-row, and then you use your comb and you do your cut. The way I recommend students to do their cut is to use the razor to remove 1 inch of hair on the perimeter. So I'd go around the perimeter and remove 1 inch of hair with my razor. At that point, I am done using my razor. I can then now go through my cut and do a layered haircut, removing another inch just to make it easy to see my guide. And what I like to do is take vertical sections throughout the whole head and pull it all the way up and cut. At that point, I just follow that guide. I take half of that previous section and get a new section, and I see my guide in there, I match it. And I continue to do that throughout the whole cut. At that point, the proctor will come over and check your haircut. They are looking to see if you had a guide, if you followed protocol, if you used the blade and used your shears during your haircut. They are looking for it to be even and blended well. So it cannot be a chop shop haircut. It does have to be decent, but that is just the easiest way to get that done. At that point, when I am done with my haircut, I do need to make sure that the hair on the floor is cleaned up. So the room at TDLR will have a dustpan and a broom for you to sweep up the hair that is on the floor. I recommend doing that before calling your proctor over to check your haircut. When you're done with that, you will get rid of all your implements into the trash, sanitize your station. Make sure that you do not have any hair on your station when you're cutting, so pull the mannequin stand away from your station to ensure that, so you don't contaminate any of the other items. And then again, sanitize your station, sanitize your hands, raise your hand that you are done. When they tell you that it is okay to move on to the next section, you will then go into your bag again and grab your next bag for the next section. The next section would be permanent wave. Again, remembering to close your kit in between each grab. Sanitize your hands before going into this pre-sanitized bag of implements. And again, your goal is to get it out all at once so you do not have to stick your hand back in here. At this point, I have a chemical draping. I have 2 towels. I have 6 rods, a couple clips, a comb, of whatever comb that you would like to use. I have cotton to go around the section I did my perm rods in. I have simulated product in a bottle. And I have my perm papers. Okay? So if you realize I don't have enough clips to section properly, that's why you have your general bag, so you can go back and grab extra clips if you need them, okay? So with this, if you drop your perm rod, if you drop your comb, you do have to get new ones. You cannot use them, okay? We do recommend that if you have a bottle that leaks, that you put a glove on it, just how you did your monomer polymer service. And then you have to make sure that you roll at least 6 rods to get a point. If you don't roll the 6 rods, you just lose a point there. But you do have to demonstrate saturation, and then you have to demonstrate a test curl. So you would call them over before you demonstrate that test curl, and they would watch you do that. They would watch you do the saturation and the test curl. They'll tell you which rod to pull. You do want to make sure that your bands are not twisted. You want to make sure that they are flat and correct, okay? We do recommend that you do this section on the top, or sorry, you have to do it on the top back section. So it is a little bit at an angle. So just make sure you're rolling your rods in the correct direction so they do not fall out on you. Okay. Again, you would never put any of these items back into your bag. This is only for this video purposes. Okay, so when I'm done with that, I will then sanitize my station, make sure everything is thrown away. If you leave anything on your station from the previous station, you can get points taken off of that because you did not properly dispose of waste material or... All right, so when they tell me it is okay to go back into my kit for the next section, I will go back into my kit after sanitizing my hands, sanitizing my station, sanitizing my hands again, because if I touch my trash bag or put my hand in my trash bag, my hands are no longer sanitary to go into my sanitary kit. So I would go sanitize my hands and then open up my kit and go in and grab the bag. So the next section is the blow drying and curling section. With this section, you are only blow drying and curling one section of the hair. Okay, so picking out a brush, just be mindful that your sections when you're blow drying should be equal to the tool that you are using. So the width and the length, that's what matters. Your comb is for when you do your sectioning if you need to, and your curling, because you need a comb to protect the iron from the scalp. You need a neck strip. You need your curling iron. So you could go ahead and plug this in and let it start warming up while you're blow drying. You need your clips for your sections. And then you need your blow dryer with a concentrator on it. You have perm paper or a piece of paper towel in this section so you can test the thermal iron before placing it onto the hair, okay? So whenever you do this section, just make sure that you have these implements. If you want a small little implement bag, you can go ahead and put all these implements into one small sanitized bag. If not, you can just place them in like such for the purposes of just getting it out and on your table. But please do be mindful in this section that you should probably be prepared to go in and out of your bag, but you should be closing it and sanitizing your hands before going back into it, just to make sure that you don't cross-contaminate. When you do this section, you blow dry and then you go straight into doing your curling iron, and then you got to do 3 curls. So make sure you are familiar with those curls and where you should be blow drying and curling. And at this point, when you're done, if you have an extra towel in this bag or an extra towel in your general bag, you could wrap your curling iron in that bag before putting it into your trash bag, because all these implements will still go into the trash bag regardless if it's hot or not, to protect your trash bag and make sure you're not melting anything from the heat that is still on your iron. The other thing you can do is if you're done before the section is over, you could let it just sit for a little bit while the other people are still doing their section, and then put it into the trash bag when you're done. So when I'm done with that, I'm going to sanitize my station, sanitize my hands, wait for them to let me know when it is good to move into the next section. And when it is, I'm gonna open up my kit for one last time. And with this section, it is the chemical application section. So this one can be a little bit confusing because it breaks it up into 3 sections. It breaks it up into your setup, your virgin relaxer retouch, and then your virgin relaxer with smoothing of one subsection, okay? So when they start, they will tell you only set up. So when you pull all these implements out of your bag, you should be setting up your mannequin with the proper draping. You should be setting up your station with your implements. So I have 2 combs just in case I drop one, some foils for the foil section. And then clips, extra gloves in case I do contaminate my gloves. I want to make sure I have enough gloves for the setup, the foil, the virgin relaxer retouch, and then the virgin relaxer. Okay, so make sure when they first give you your first 10 minutes that you are only preparing your mannequin. So that means your protective cream, your gloves, your sections where you need to section, and if you had to dispense any type of product out of a jar, you would have a spatula, okay? So I would put my gloves on, I would put the protective cream on. It does say that the things have to be performed in order, so just be mindful of how you're going to do that. Make sure it's sectioned properly, and at that point, I am done. I'm going to raise my hand, and then they will tell me we are going to do the next section, which is foils. Whenever I do my foils, I will then pull my foils and my simulated product for my bleach or my color if you were doing low lights, right? And I would do 2 foils. If you want to do a third, that's fine, but 2 is all you need. It doesn't get you any extra points. So you need your comb, you need your brush, and you need your foils, and you are going to perform 2 foils, whether it is a slice or a weave. It does not matter, okay? So when you put those foils in, this is not a time section. They will go 2 people or 3 people at a time, or 1 person at a time. It just depends on your proctor. They will tell you, okay, candidate number 1 and 2, perform or demonstrate proper application of a foil. You're going to do that. And at that point, they will have you open up a foil to show you that you properly saturated. When they're done, they will move on to the next 2. When everyone has done that, then they will go into their retouch section, the virgin relaxer retouch, or hydroxide virgin relaxer retouch, however they have it named, okay? At this point, you use that simulated product, okay? You have your brush, you go through and you do your retouch. You should be leaving a little bit of space in between the root because you have to kind of treat the relaxer like it's bleach. It kind of has like a swelling like thing, and then you don't want it to be touching the scalp, regardless if it is a retouch. So you should be leaving a little gap there, not too much though, not like an inch, not even a ½ inch, just a little bit. I would even just say maybe about the size of your rat tail comb like this, okay? So just leaving a little bit, going through, doing that retouch. Once you're done with that, you're done. You wait for the next section. The next section would be your virgin application. At this point, you go back through another section. Again, you leave a little bit of space in between the scalp and your relaxer product, and you apply it mid-strand, and then you go back and you smooth from mid-strand to ends, okay? Whenever you're doing your retouch, do keep in mind that it says assuming 2 inches of regrowth. So you're not only gonna be doing an inch, you're gonna be doing 2 inches. So if you were to look at these 2 combs, this is an inch right here. So this is about how wide of a retouch product you should be putting on your client's hair for this test. When you're done with that, you will throw everything away. You can take the draping off, you can throw all that away, and then you would be good to go into the very last section of the examination, which is the cleanup section, okay? So the cleanup section does not have any sort of bag that you have to pull out of your kit. You are just disposing of all the implements that are still on your station that you need to get rid of, and then you are making sure that you sanitize properly. You want to also make sure that you are not going in the wrong order when you're sanitizing. So you have to think, if I took my trash bag off my station and then sanitize, like that's taking your trash bag off kind of signifies that you're done. So you want to sanitize your hands, sanitize your station, throw everything away, sanitize your hands one more time, throw that away, and then take your bag off your station and tie it up. Your stand and your Lisa also go in the trash. So you cannot walk out with Lisa and your stand in hand. You have to go put that in the trash, okay? When you get in your car, when you get home, that's when you take everything out and you put it back in order if you want to, or just add it to your daily routine, and that would be the end of your exam. Again, I will at some point be posting videos of how to perform each section, but right now this is just a generalized how you should pack your bags and why you should pack them this way and what you need when you pack.